Hi class, this is Mr. Tan, and we are in business law and we are focusing on P5, question 5. So P5 says, provide justifications for the use of appropriate legal solutions. So in P4 we talked about Fabian and the non-completion of him transforming the restaurant into a 3-bedroom house. And we looked at the way we can discharge those contracts in terms of by performance, and we can see that he didn't complete it, so he hadn't performed the contract. We can see he did complete it by partial performance, but it's only really up to the innocent party if they want to accept that or not. And we can see that there was frustration, so he was ill, so a discharge of contract, and also there was a breach of condition in that he was supposed to finish the transformation of the restaurant to the house, and on completion he would get that sum of money, but he didn't do that, so there's even a breach of condition. So in all of these respects you've got a termination of contract. Now what is the possible justification for Big House Limited cancelling the contract out? Well, the advantage is Big House Limited doesn't want to give partial performance. Why would Big House Limited want to give partial performance, having to fork out more money clearing up the mess that Fabian has completed? Big holes are now left in the building. You've got rats and an infestation, and they would have to clear that up in a neighbourhood and so on and so forth. So it's actually going to cost them some more money now for the work that Fabian has carried out. So they don't want to pay him for partial performance because there is actually no need to. They don't want to fork out the money to do something that Fabian, in many respects, is in a breach of contract. He has frustrated the contract, and complete performance hasn't taken place, as in Cutter versus Powell 1795. So the recommendation there for Big House Limited is to make sure that they don't pay Fabian any partial performance, and we can see the justifications and the reasons for that. Now the second part of the question is in terms of the justification for the bank going to court. Now you could argue it one of two ways. You could actually say that the bank has lost out how much? If there's only £200,000 left in the restaurant, they've lost £60,000. It may have been better perhaps to ask the judge to complete the work done on the restaurant so that it's transformed from a restaurant into a house, and maybe pay someone £50,000 to £60,000 to get the work completed. Then if you paid someone that money, then the house in today's terms would be worth how much? How much would a 3-bedroom house in London be worth today? Yeah, maybe, let's say at the very lowest, maybe £400,000. So if you took £400,000 and you took out of that £50,000 for the cost of doing the restaurant up, then you're left with how much? £350,000. So in that way, at least the bank would have got back £250,000, all their money, but they would have got back £200,000. But then once all the other creditors had been paid, if there's any money left, then they would have got back more money. Okay? But it's most likely if the house sold for more of an amount, then they would have got back more money. Okay? So in this instance, we can see that there's a possibility that if they did the house up, they could get more money into the business and more of the creditors could have got paid, depending upon the outstanding debts, obviously. If the outstanding debts weren't too high and the banks could see that, then they could run the risk of saying, well, not too many people owed money, so as shareholders, we would get back our money. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that would be one option that the banks could have had. But then the other option is this would have taken a long time. This would have taken a long... They would have had to find someone. They would have had someone to manage the project and make sure that this was being done, and carefully analyse the financial situation of all the other creditors to say that the house will need to take X amount for all those other creditors to be paid, and then for the shareholders to be paid, and for them to be paid as a shareholder to get back their £50,000. Because the bank charge on the house, the restaurant, was only 200,000. So the other £50,000, they would be paid last as a shareholder. Yeah. But the benefit of them going to court and get a winding up order is this. By getting a winding up order, they are getting back the majority of their money straight away. They're getting back £190,000 straight away. And it's in the shortest period of time. So now they can reinvest that money back into whatever projects they want to. Because it also depends upon how much a Big House Limited owes the other creditors to determine how much more they would need to sell the house. Does that make sense? Yeah, you're looking as if you're not too sure. So because if, as I said to you before, if you had £50,000 worth of creditors before you got to shareholders, and you spent another £50,000 on doing the house up, then on top of the 250,000, you need to sell the house for a minimum of 350,000 to cover those costs before you get to your shareholder amount, which you can be paid back. Okay, so careful analysis would need to be done, and it would all depend upon two things: how fast you wanted the money back, and the degree of risk you wanted to take in terms of getting back the rest of the 60,000 or just taking the 190,000. So you could argue either way, but it would obviously depend upon the circumstances and your justifications for it. Okay? Are there any questions on that? Okay, thank you very much.